Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new Tales from Tech Support, where the most common question is, did you try turning it off and on again? Thank you for subscribing to the channel and for hitting the like button. If you haven't already, why don't you make this the video that you subscribe to the channel? And please don't forget to hit the like button for the algorithm. And now let's start with the first story, shall we? The first story is called Do Not Touch the Network. I had a fun run-in with the director of another department yesterday. She had mentioned to a coworker of mine that she couldn't scan to email from the printer in her office. I'm the printer whisperer for our organization, so he asked me to look at it. I knew from experience that this director won't let me in her department to look at anything without prior permission. They're in an outside locked building filled with PII and she's super protective of her stuff. So I called and asked if I could come over and take a look at her printer. I explained that I wanted to run a few scan tests and have her or one of her people walk me through the process they use. That's when the conversation went south. The director was yelling across the phone. This is a network issue. You don't do network issues. You're not allowed to handle network issues. Do not touch the network. I was stunned at her words and tone, because first, I'm the one in charge of printers. If something isn't working, I check it out, and if I can't handle it, it's moved up to my senior sysadmin, and we work on it together so I learn about it. Second, this woman is the director of a non-IT department. She is equal to my boss, the CIO. She has no say as to what I can or cannot do on my daily duties, nor can she yell at me like that. Third, I'm a freaking sysadmin. I deal with network stuff all day. I'm a network god in my office. But I played the grown-up and told her, that's okay director, I speak to the senior sysadmin and see what's going on. I beat her phone call by a minute, just enough time to brief the senior sysadmin on what was going on. He was amazed at the director's attitude. You're a sysadmin, what in the world is she talking about? The fun part, her printer problem wasn't a network issue. The shortcut they are used to pressing on the printer screen had disappeared. I was able to walk the senior sysadmin through how to put it back on the printer via our remote system. The next story is called Math is Hard. Back in 2009, our company purchased a horribly mismanaged company, mostly for their technical ability and their customers. I was asked to come to the president's office and meet one of the crown jewels of this acquisition, a guy we will call Fred. For background, our IT department falls under the accounting department and is headed by the CFO. I do not work for or report to the president in any way, but out of professional courtesy he usually gets what he wants, for the most part. Fred seemed nice enough. We exchanged pleasantries and the president mentioned that he would be needing a new, beefy, top-of-the-line PC for this new venture. I told him, no problem, just let me know the specs and I'll get it done, and I went on my merry way. Later that day, the president asked me to stop back by his office for a little chat. Towards the end of the day, I swung by his office. The president wanted to let me know that Fred and his team were really smart guys and that they would probably be the IT team for the company someday in the future. It would be best to really do a good job on this, as this guy would likely be my boss at some point in the future. So I was already kind of bristling at this, because as it stood, I was in charge of IT, even if it was only me and one other guy, and I didn't like the idea of a demotion. Then he handed me a piece of paper with the specs that Fred wanted and needed to be able to work properly. It read, going from memory, as follows. HP or Dell laptop, must have Intel i7, Windows 7, 32-bit, 32GB of RAM, 500GB HD, ATI or Nvidia graphic card. I kind of snickered. I said, can we call him? We got Fred on the phone. Fred, did you mean to specify Windows 7 64-bit? No, says Fred. It has to be 32-bit. 64-bit won't work with the application I use. Okay, so then we'll drop the memory down to 4GB. No, says Fred. I need 32GB or I won't be able to work efficiently. So I tell the really smart guy that 32GB won't work in a 32-bit system. He insists it will. He knows what he needs and what he is doing, and just to order it the way he specified. He can configure it to work just fine. I tell him that I would love to see this, as it basically breaks math. Long story short, I order it, and lo and behold, a 32-bit system can only use 4GB of memory. He tells the president that I must have done something wrong with the setup, or something on the network was preventing it from using all 32GB. Facepalm. Later in the week, my CFO/boss wants to have a meeting with me to discuss why we cannot configure it the way he wants and what we can do to solve the issue. So I go to the meeting and my boss asks me, What is preventing you from configuring this the way he wants? Math. Math? Yes, math. You see, what 32-bit and 64-bit means is how many address registers a computer can access in memory. 32-bit means it can access a little over 4 billion ones and zeros, or 4 gigabytes. That's it. It's not up for debate. I can stick 100 sticks of memory in there, and it will still only use 4 GB. It cannot be changed because you cannot change the math. Did you explain it to him? No, I did not, because he said he wanted it that way and he could configure it to work. But, said the CFO, you said it couldn't work. What can you do to make it work? Nothing. Again, math. In the end, Fred said he would just deal with it. He lasted about 8 months and was asked to leave after he spent $7,500 at a Vegas strip club with clients one night. Apparently, math was never a strong suit of his. The third story is called IT Professional. So I do freelance IT for small businesses. One of my customers decided to replace me. The company they replaced me with is really just the IT director of the local community college. He is a people manager and knows next to nothing about actual IT. But he is friends with one of the employees and he's cheap. So I tell my customer good luck and contact me if they ever need me. It wasn't even a week, and the first thing this guy tried to do, he botched. I get a call from him in a panic. He was tasked with replacing their ancient phone system with a modern voice over IP system. This is what he did. He tested all the phones connected at his office and they worked. The next day he takes them out to the customer's office. He plugs a phone directly into the ISP gateway and the phone connects. So he calls the voice over IP company and tells them all is good. The phones are connecting correctly and they can start porting the phone numbers over from the POT's lines to the voice over IP service. While the porting is happening, he starts disconnecting the old phones at people's desk and connecting the new voice over IP phones. And when he is done, he realizes none of the phones are connecting. The voice over IP company tells him to run a connection test tool on his laptop, plugged in through one of the phones, and sure enough, the connection is being blocked. But by this point, the numbers are already ported to the voice over IP service and the customer is without phones, and he has no clue why they weren't working. That's when I get the call. He explains what he did and I asked him why he didn't test the phones from behind the firewall. And, I kid you not, his exact words were, "What's a firewall?" Seriously, he had no clue what a firewall was. He always just assumed you plugged everything into the ISP gateway and used that. I was floored. This is a guy that is doing business IT and he doesn't know what a firewall is. Oh, and the kicker, his next project is to set up a site-to-site VPN connection between their current office and their new office they just rented. He told them he totally knows how to do that. The guy that doesn't know what a firewall is claimed he knows how to set up a site-to-site VPN. So I logged in remotely and set up the firewall properly to work with the voice over IP phones. I'm sure the owner of the business will question why I had to be brought in to fix the phones when he receives my detailed bill. The last story is called, "Can you just rebuild our business?" Several years ago, I worked as a software developer for a company that provided network and desktop support for our customers. This story is about a new customer we got that was an e-commerce business. They hired us to fix some of their servers, but the problem was much deeper than that. It seems that the company had, over a period of several years, gradually let go of each and every person in their IT department. The last employee had provided a couple of Word documents containing some server IPs and admin credentials, and they then let him go. This seemed to be part of a larger pattern, as the company was housed in a large business complex which they used to fully occupy. However, half of the building was now unoccupied, a significant portion of the building was sublet to other companies, and the current staff was maybe half a dozen people. This company had over a dozen servers, but no network diagram, and no one there who even understood what most of the servers did. Our techs did their best to sort it out based on the documentation from former IT and managed to restore the server that failed. That server failing was what prompted the company to reach out to us. A couple of weeks later, I was called in to meet with the person running the company. The actual owners were completely removed from the company's operations. It was simply a cash cow that they had zero involvement with. It seemed that separate from the initial failed server, their e-commerce site was now broken. Keep in mind, this e-commerce site is literally the entire product of the company. They wanted me to fix the site. However, they didn't have any documentation for the site. They didn't have anyone on staff who understood the code base. They didn't have credentials for the source control. They didn't even know which servers the application was hosted on. Apparently, they had outsourced 100% of the development of the application to Russian programmers. We are in the US, nearly a decade ago. The programmers built the app, configured all of the interactions and provided zero documentation. Or possibly the company discarded the documentation. After some investigation, I discovered that the application was actually scattered among at least 3 different servers. 2 of the servers were AWS, and the company didn't know the username and password of the AWS account. They did have credentials for the 3rd server, but that was simply the host for the front-end interface and a customer mailing list. All of the actual business logic, which the manager I was working with could only explain in the most rudimentary terms, was hosted on those 2 AWS sites. I did find a problem, an expired security certificate, and we got them back up and running. But I did my best to explain that if anything else went wrong, there was an excellent chance that there would be no way to fix it. 2 weeks later, the site went down again. One of the AWS sites wasn't accepting HTTP requests anymore. When I explained that I couldn't access the server to find out what was happening because they didn't have the credentials, I was asked if I could just rebuild the application on a new server. I told them that it was possible, but that I would need someone to explain in detail of the necessary business logic, and that they would lose their customer database. Again, no credentials, and have to start that over from scratch. They said, "Oh, okay," and that was the end of the conversation. I have no idea if they are still in business. And now it's your time to shine. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.